to you by MTN. Yes, and we will bring you some messages, and right after that, my guest is here in the studio. I will let him introduce himself. And once again, happy Eid to all our Muslim faithfuls. We'll be right back.
We all have that one friend that always hides everything from everyone else. Like my guy, Sheung, that got 1 gig free data when he downloaded my MTN NG app. Did he share the gist with us?
No!
But we found out, and even something he doesn't know, that we get up to 2 gig data if we recharge 500 naira or more on my MTN NG app with our debit card.
You don't mean it!
That's not all, though. We also get 10% extra on every airtime recharge made on my MTN NG app.
Wow!
Will we share the gist with him?
Yes.
That's correct. You get 1 gig free data when you download my MTN NG app. Up to 2 gig when you recharge 500 naira and above with your debit card on my MTN NG app. And 10% extra on every recharge made on the app. So what are you waiting for? Download my MTN NG app today to enjoy. Terms and conditions apply.
Guys, here he comes.
Guy, any gist today?
What are we doing today?
We all have that one friend that always hides everything from everyone else. Like my guy, Sheung, that got 1 gig free data when he downloaded my MTN NG app. Did he share the gist with us?
No!
But we found out, and even something he doesn't know, that we get up to 2 gig data if we recharge 500 naira or more.
All right, it's Dailies today, and I'm being joined in the studio by...
Everybody knows I'll be here.
Well, I
must say that
Disu. I must say that I've missed doing this with you.
Of
You
course,
know,
yes.
it's so good to see you. Happy Eid. Did you enjoy yourself yesterday?
Yes, now, but you knew where I was.
I don't know.
You knew where I was.
Okay, let's look at the papers.
It was fun.
I know, I can tell. It's showing on your face.
It was fun. I can hardly keep my eyes open.
I can also tell. Too much enjoyment. I can also tell. Too much enjoyment. All right, let's start with Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Hasty economic reforms worsening poverty. I'll read it again. Hasty economic reforms worsening poverty. That's a big story here on Daily Trust.
Let me prepare your minds that even though it's a holiday, we're supposed to be in a holiday mood. The news that you have in the papers generally today is a bit worrying because a lot of it states the obvious. Look at this story now in the Trust. It's economic reforms worsening poverty. You remember there was a report that said that in the past 1 month, 11 million people have been thrown into poverty. Yes. 11 million. Stakeholders have warned that if the president fails to allow recommendations of his own Policy Advisory Council by sequencing the reforms of his administration, that is, not being in a hurry and sequencing it, not doing all that. Look at it, within the space of 1 month, we've had a few things that have shaken everybody, salary increase here, increased tariff for electricity, and so even though most of them have been denied, and that he must be careful not to set the cart before the horse. And this stakeholders' position is coming on the heels of the World Bank's revelation that the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria has resulted in the impoverishment of over 4 million people. Sorry, not 11 million. 4 million. 11 million is something else. 4 million people in the country during the first half of 2023. Though, you must also learn, and be careful to know that the World Bank has its own political, shenanigans. Shenanigans. Is a result of what I did yesterday. Okay, so they caution that if targeted measures were not implemented promptly, an additional sum for 1 million, and that's where I got the 11 million from. Nigerians were projected to fall into poverty by the end of the year. And it says, when you are implementing reforms must be sequenced. Now, this paragraph, I'd like you to listen to. And it says, this is by Uche Walekis. If the president is using the policy document developed by the Policy Advisory Council, led by distinguished Senator Tokubo Abiru, with inputs from KPNG, it is clearly that in on the president will announce internally, and I'm much later to find that it records introduce non-cash passives to the effect. implementing minimum wage, partnering with the UBA to increase refined capacity. The last point there is to effect removal of fuel subsidy. And Professor Leke says, on the monetary policy, the council recommended that the governments of all model the impact of the unification of exchange rates on the economy and determine the quantum of external reserves that will be required to support that policy. And he said that the council also recommended that, taking into cognizance the backlog of foreign exchange demand, before you unify, check out your backlog of demand, put $12 billion. You see, there's a backlog of demand, for example, that includes the airlines and whatever,
of course,
of 12 billion and contingency reserves. So all these are supposed to come into the model before you now talk about unification of exchange rates. But what we are seeing is that these things have happened before now. Some of the have happened before some of the things recommended. The implication of what he's saying is that the president is not following the plan that has been given to him. Now, this raises a bell. I saw somewhere in the news that the president went, when he announced the removal of whatever,
subsidy.
it wasn't part of the script.
Well, I mean, he did say it.
Yes,
He did allude to the fact that he went off script to announce that.
We have a problem there. He had himself said during the campaign that, okay, they were all working as a group. But if you go off script on things like that, the signs there are not too good. Okay, they're not too good. The story also talks about the World Bank, but I'm very wary about World Bank and IMF. These are instruments of, to put it politely, control on developing countries. And so we must, one must be a little bit
Ask
careful.
me to tell you something about the World Bank after this show.
Tell them now. Why do you want
No. This is for your ears only.
So are you telling them that you want some people to kidnap you? And
No, it's not going to happen.
I don't have any ears. I don't want to hear this.
Okay.
But this is quite worrying, because you see, my reaction to what is going on generally is that yes, some decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
But for God's sake, stop looking at numbers. Look at human beings.
But don't you think that the World Bank considers that?
No, I'm not.
And maybe our politicians could be the problem?
See, Nigeria has enough eggheads, enough brains to devise. We have been saying this since Babangida's whatever. I remember the word was a homegrown economic plan. You can't, you must be discerning, for God's sake. And I'm glad that African countries are beginning to see the shenanigans that goes on, the United Nations, this and that. But there is no help anywhere. If you are not careful, you'll be pawns on the chessboard. They keep moving you up and down. We need homegrown economists who are patriots and not given to. I'm not saying that everything the World Bank is doing is bad. Definitely not. But there is a way and means you can tap into these things, but make sure that you keep your country together.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Well, let's go to the Vanguard. The story here says presidency fires back at PDP and Labour Party over alleged anti-party policies or anti-people policies. And this is one of the stories that we also had in the news this morning.
Well, there's a lot of brickbats going on, but in between these brickbats, you still see some elements that that concerns us as a people. So the PDP, they fire back at they caution the APC over anti-people policies. That's maybe a bit too harsh, but just to say that the policies should be more human driven. You don't look at numbers, you don't look at percentages, you look at people. These are people's lives that we are talking about. And it tasks Nigerians of fervent prayers over economic hardship. I don't know, we've been praying for so long, I don't know when God will answer this prayer. And that now, this is something that I've said, and now it's been blown in the open.
Yeah.
And they say that Tinubu's government lives in opulence while Nigerians groan. That's what the Labour Party says. I had said this before, that the presidency has to go the extra mile. Extra mile of identifying with the people. For Miriam, for example, I said that when Obasanjo was going to, I'm sorry I keep sounding this, but when Obasanjo was going to introduce the what's it called now? Low profile.
Okay.
Where we had this same challenge. He dropped his Mercedes and took on the 504. Okay. Lateef Jakonde was a governor for 4 years. He wasn't any less a governor by driving his personal car, Toyota. And so, like I said, we are going to be on the lookout to see how this government carries itself moving forward. Driving Maybachs, Maybach is the Lexus of Mercedes.
Yes.
Driving Maybachs and having convoys of 100 cars with SUVs running up and down. It doesn't project a good image to the people that you want to sacrifice.
But I mean, and I'm not in any way making a case for the Tinubu administration, but
Yes.
former President Buhari, at the beginning of his tenure, also said, "Oh, we're going to cut back on government
But he
expenses."
didn't follow suit.
Exactly. So it's
But
mostly lip service.
That is no. Look, you can't keep telling us to tighten our belts. Nigerians are suffering. It's getting
There's
worse
no
by
waste
the day.
for the belt, sir.
There's no waste for the belt. You can't continue that, and then you exhibit, both your associates. The president needs to talk to his associates, his party members, that hey, scale it down, scale it down. It's important. It might be insignificant in materials, but in terms of perception, you can't be having a full English breakfast on your table and then you tell your children to drink ogi without sugar and akara. No, it's true. And I've also said to Sheriff and to the public that, listen, perception is the most difficult thing to manage in governance, and therefore extra effort must be made. Anyway, so the PDP cautions, says congratulating Nigerians on the celebration. The PDP cautioned APC and the federal government controlled by the party against visiting anti-people policies and so on and so forth. The PDP also commended Nigerians for their resilience. We don't need any commendation.
We're tired of being resilient.
We're
tired of being managers. We're tired.
These politicians should just, because there's not much difference between them. But I said in between. And they say that as heart-rending, that Nigerians are currently undergoing the most harrowing, and I believe that, harrowing economic hardship under the federal government, which continues to impose life discounting policies with attendant hardships on the people. And it says that they're worried about the worsening economic crisis, astronomical increase in cost of essential goods and services, lots of what they list all the things that. And so the APC replies, and their reply is anemic. It lacks power, just to say that the PDP is envious of Tinubu's achievements in 3 weeks. That's what Dele Alaki says. I think that's a bit anemic. He could have said, he could have pulled out a bigger punch, than just say that it's envious. You don't determine whether you have achievement. It's for people to say that you have achievement. And he says that, it says something here. He says that, Dele Alaki says that the PDP that allegedly lacked the mental capacity and managerial acumen while in charge of government for 16 years to say worse things. What about the APC government that has been in charge for 8 years? He didn't say anything about that.
Maybe we need to wait till it's 16, then we can now. I'm just saying.
I know. Alake says that PDP will say that they will even say worse. That is very mild coming from them. They expect them to say worse because all the time they were in government, they lacked the guts, mental capacity, physical resourcefulness, and vision to do what the government has done or accomplished in 3 weeks. Okay, what about those who have been in power for 8 years and handed over to you?
It's not the Tinubu administration.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Well, as my colleagues, if you see, I'd like to tell him to explain that. They have that problem, though. They never want to say that it's a,
of course. They like to distinguish it.
And he said that if I were you, there is no news in what they have said. There is no Dappy, my good friend. There is news in what they have said, and of course you wouldn't say there is news, but I'd like you to get a sense that by sheer coincidence, not that we don't have anything with the PDP or whatever, but by sheer coincidence, what they have said reflects what you people call achievements in reality is harrowing and excruciating pain. Okay, so the people understand that they might have to go through this pain. They probably would have some level of understanding, but it shouldn't be taken for granted. It shouldn't be monkey the baboon the chop situation. It shouldn't be. So you need to go back to the drawing board and identify with the people. That should also include, the other day we saw Akpabio's entourage. Or what do they call the abuse convoy? All these things. When you were away, I talked about the monsters that we have created. Where everybody believes that you must show your integrity. If you don't have convoy, nobody. All these things.
Your level of big manism.
Yes. If you're buying a car, for example, how could any leader be going in a 600 million naira car? For God's sake, 6 million bulletproof car. With super bikes and whatever, dancing all over the streets when people can hardly feed themselves.
It's terrible. It's a terrible situation, and we must look into it if the government really is indeed about the people. Another story here said, this is the biggest keyword in this season, ladies and gentlemen. Let the poor breathe.
Let them breathe. This doesn't go to government alone. It goes to the elites. If people continue to see what is shown in TikTok with the elite and what is seen around them, we are cooking something that would not be palatable for Nigeria. And so there's a need to rein everybody. Let the poor breathe. What I've noticed about Nigerians is not just do they want to acquire money that they'll never use. They want to show that, there's so much oppression in the land. You have to buy light, you have to buy water, you have to buy justice. So, our own president, thankfully, has made that appeal. Let the poor breathe. Don't suffocate them.
I think we should say it back to the president too.
Yeah, no, he has said it. He's
saying it, but we are saying it to him too.
He feels it. He feels it. He's our president. He feels it. But let him push the narrative down the line. Let the poor breathe. And the Vanguard says in this documentary that he must talk. He must persuade the companies to adjust to the subsidy removal payments before imposing their proposed increase in electricity tariff. That electricity tariff is going to kill me. I can't run the washing machine, so I have to go and look for alagba for all over again and get coal iron. And I'm not kidding. Currently, I'm on like a 20k a week.
That's cheap.
That is cheap. It says that a situation whereby the people have no money, buy fuel for their vehicles, no electricity to power their homes and businesses will be severely choking. Unfortunately, it is also at this same juncture that the government has chosen to implement a 7.5% charge on value-added tax on several consumable items. The Tinubu government must roll out palliative. I hate that word palliative. It's condescending.
I think it's also used interchangeably, and I think that it should not be used. We should be looking at cushioning effects.
Cushioning effects, not
palliative.
It's beggarly,
Yes, and what I'm still yet to understand what these palliatives would be, or these.
It's irritable.
I mean, I want to know what it is, and who are the people who would benefit from it, and how do you pick them?
Anyway, so they said that they should improve on the CBN rested anchor borrowers program. I don't believe in that. All this should be shifted to commercial banks, in all honesty. Shift the responsibility to no commercial bank will, to use the Nigerian language, its own hands. Because a lot of these people, they borrow the money, most of them, some of them don't even exist.
After borrowing,
some of them don't even exist. I hope nobody has used my name for this anchor borrowers program. Yes, there was a time you'll be getting messages that,
this person
one Bolaji has
hello Bolaji. Okay. Let's look at Punch newspaper, the business and economy section, which has a very interesting aspect here. Marketers project 700 naira per litre petrol and plans fresh PMS imports. What they do?
I want you when we started. You should have gone to play music or something or take a walk. Because it just doesn't look good on a salad day. But there's work to be done, and we can't pretend that all is well. So what is the news that we have in the Punch here? The Punch says that marketers project 700 naira per litre.
700?
Yes. It says that, hold your breath. It says oil marketers have projected that the pump price of petrol would rise to above 700 naira per litre in northern Nigeria starting from July. And the National Controller Operations Independent Ipman Oshati told the Punch on Wednesday that prices will drive to above 700 in the north once independent marketers start importing products from July. He said that while those living in the northern states will pay as much as 700 and above for 1 liter of petrol, those outside Lagos should expect to pay around 610.
It's already happening.
It's already happening. As residents in Lagos would pay about 600 naira per liter. And he says what I'm seeing is around 600 and above, depending on the exchange rate. The current crude price at the international market and the landed cost. It says those in Lagos will pay 600, outside Lagos 600 plus, while those in the north will be paying about 700. And he says that the price of products will depend on market fundamentals. And as we speak, he now says the Nigerian Customs Service is delaying some AGO diesel vessels because of the 7.5% VAT. Now, I'd like to ask you something, Miriam. I'd like us to ponder on this. Is it that subsidy is bad, or because the implementation was flawed and led to... Because we need to distinguish between these two facts. There is nothing wrong in government subsidizing certain items or certain areas. In other countries, it will be health. In other countries, it will be mass transportation, so that at least there is an alternative. So my belief is that there is nothing wrong in subsidy per se. If, for example, the government says you've removed subsidy from diesel and whatever, why are you then imposing a tax on it? I mean, you must leave some gap to make life livable for your people. Because too many people have been thrown into the unemployment line, and you need to revive your economy.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I think that it's implementation problems.
I think it's implementation problems. So we shouldn't throw away the idea that government should subsidize 1 or 2 areas.
It should be considered. It should be considered. But again, I think the problem is that we don't even trust. There's a trust deficit between the people and the government, and that's because...
Is it between persons? Do you think I trust you?
No, you don't trust me. I know you don't trust me, but I trust you.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
I trust you.
Don't
I trust you, and you know this. I trust you.
That thing you want, I've given it to you. So don't.
No, you're not giving me
bribe
anything. Lagos, they have
bribe
not given me anything.
Don't bribe me.
I have nothing. Okay, we have just 1 minute. Let's quickly look at this one. Trinity guy and talentless content creators.
Oh, this is a nice column in the Daily Trust, and it talks about skits. I think the Trinity guy everybody knows about, but he also talks about there must be responsibility in these skits, and it has to be regulated. If you have the time, you can go. I'll post it on my blog, jimidisu.com. I'll fish it out and post it on my blog. And maybe we'll use it as a document one day. I'll keep it. Yeah. To discuss this issue of
skit making
that is going to wreck our society if care is not taken. You know the guy, Trinity guy. It went viral on video. He called an 11-year-old or so and asked her to describe his genitals on video. And he now said that that he had the approval of the parents. So the police have picked him or the parents. So they've all gone to court. The court refused them bail, and the case will come up soon.
An 11-year-old is a minor.
Is a minor.
And why are you even asking somebody to describe
would he talk to his own daughter? You see what poverty has done. What he actually did, I'm sure, was to give the parents of the child like 10K for money kids, and they'll be busy, be happy. They're going to see their child in video. Maybe he didn't even tell them what the content was going to be.
He probably didn't, because no right thinking.
Well, parents do all kinds of things these days. You must admit that. Goodness, poverty is worse than cancer. Poverty is worse than cancer because it blows up everything, the mind, the brain, name it.
Well, Lagos, we have to go. What's happening today at 9?
One reverend called Ibiyemi.
Yes, our Rivers pastor.
He said something derogatory about the celestial.
Oh, goodness. Yes, I saw that fight.
He said they use Ogogoro and things like that. So
I heard the fight. They have given him an ultimatum.
Well, Kunle Hamilton is one of the
He's coming on your show.
It's coming on my show.
Then we can't afford to miss it. We'll have to hear the rebuttal.
If you call your neighbors, call everybody. Don't miss this one.
Yes, we'll have to hear that rebuttal, but we have to go. Always a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I love it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Well, Lagos, that's it on Newspaper Review Dailies today. We will be back at the 8 o'clock hour to talk about postpartum depression and what women have to deal with after giving birth. Stay with us.
We all have that one friend.
And I want to assume that you would run because I want to give the listeners context for the conversation.
In 2019, you were running mate to Atiku Abubakar. What did you learn then that you will not repeat this time?
Yes, when is the president coming out to address us?
There's a few things. One, I have a burden and a passion for young people.
The fact that you have elected a man does not mean then you begin to order him around. The president will do whatever is good for the country at any given time.
Mr. Adeshino, isn't the president responsible to the people?
What should the next president do to root out stakeholders who are complicit?
You fire those that need to be fired are fired. It's looking like a brand new Chelsea, attacking with so much fluidity. And what can you say about that, Martin? I know you follow Chelsea quite closely.
I live close to the Chelsea training ground. That's what you mean by that. I'm not a